One thing I can promise you this, I will always tell you the truth.
With Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Meta, has unveiled sweeping reforms to the world's biggest social media business. Zuckerberg took a massive swipe at the, quote, legacy media and the infamous fact checkers, well, they're gone.
Have just been too politically biased and have destroyed more trust than they've created, especially in the US. So over the next couple of months, we're going to phase in a more comprehensive community notes system.
That's criminal. What we need in America is to invest in critical thinking skills so Americans on their own don't believe something just because they like it. And I say that on the left, as someone on the left, my friends forward me something, I go, there are no links to any sources here. They're like, oh, it's great, though, I get it. There's nothing backing it up. And you're being misled. And some on the right the same way. We get misled because we like what we're being told. If you have critical thinking skills to go, I like this, let me go Google it. Let me go search it on any other platform. Let me fact check it on my own with some reliable sources.
I worry that there's this epidemic of certainty that the internet brings out in us.
Like, so much of our world is built on a facade of a certain, like, sanctimonious promulgation, some preaching of some values, but the people that are behind the scenes on those, they don't necessarily believe those values at all.
And so these lies that are all or high coronium lies they have different names, but they all mean the same thing. There's just these crazy lies are meant to get your mind off what the truth is. So they're not talking about the truth. They're not arguing about the truth. They're just getting your mind away from stuff that the guy does not want you to be thinking about. Okay. So
there's no place in this culture for that much more wise, deep, and reasonable way of talking.
So I really think that we have this completely flawed impression of who we are because our online selves aren't even really tied to our real selves.
I cannot give you a drug that will cause your brain to only tell the truth, no matter what you think. Okay? Because the truth for you might be a lie to somebody else. Okay?
Since truth is complex, many-faceted, and there are different points of view, each of which may have something to be said for them.
There's some evidence now that AIs can be deliberately deceptive. And once they realize getting more control is good, and once they're smarter than us, we'll be more or less irrelevant. We're not special, and we're not safe. What happened?
That's why I really love Truthcourt, is because you try the idea, not the person. And that's really beautiful. That's the real great concept. That's what's different in so many ways about these ideas that were other ideas, even like community notes comes along. There's no name calling. And on Twitter, on X, you'll see, right away, these arguments, they'll talk about, you used the wrong there.
Yeah.
You didn't spell this right. It's like, what? That's not even the argument. The argument is this. So Truthcourt brings the conversation to the root, the argument. And we have moderators on Truthcourt where you're not gonna be able to call names. You're not gonna be able to be mean to people on Truthcourt. Right. If you were gonna be insulting to someone, you're gonna be gone pretty quick. And that's what I love about it, because often I'll get into argument, I'll get baited into something because someone's calling me a name, and the argument goes every which way because I'll get hostile. And it's like, man, I had this person. That argument was mine. And then they started calling me names, and it triggers me out. And so that's the best part of Truthcourt to me, is that idea that we try the idea, not the person.
Yeah.
And I think Robert has really worked at making a very broad scope of people involved in Truthcourt. We're very different. We're from different classes, different educations, different experiences. And that has been really cool to experience that, and people from all over the world. So, we're dealing with people from all cultures, all classes, and they're in one room, and we're talking about things and trying to understand them. And that is really, really cool. The conversations I've had there, I've I've gotten something out of them. I would say I've learned something from other people, and that has not been the case in over a decade on the internet. Like between conversations, if I've got a Twitter or Facebook and I start to try to conversate about a post, it just doesn't work the same.
I mean, on X or on Twitter, the argument, in inverted commas, the theme spreads out so rapidly. It goes, as you were saying, it goes off every which way in lots of different things. But Truthcourt, it keeps the focus in. It doesn't, which is something which I like. It keeps our minds narrowed in on the issue at hand, and doesn't really permit the spreading out and the diversification going on.
That's one thing I think that is when you say that, that's exactly one of the ideas I like about Truthcourt, is that it's a patient conversation. We're not, and so that I like that confusion when someone will phrase something in a strange way. That's strange to me, not strange to them, which is what I'm talking about. We're able to communicate at a slower pace on Truthcourt, where we're able to present ourselves, and there's no one there that's going to make fun of you for the way you communicate. The only way we can communicate to you is what do you mean by that? It becomes an explanation and a conversation. And we find out a lot of times what was written and how I'm interpreting it is not the way the person meant it. And then we have this conversation. And it's more.
So, yeah, how did you get into Truthcourt in the first place?
One day I was on Twitter and I saw Bob's advertisement. And it struck a chord in me, and I wanted to find out more, because I've always been looking for the truth.
Right.
Yeah. So that's how I got here.
All right. Well, that's so actually it's a kind of philosophical reasons, really, a sort of matter of your soul looking for truth.
Exactly. And I looked up information about Bob, and I saw his background, and I was impressed. And about a year ago is when I started on this. And I've been doing cases almost weekly, and I love making up cases and enjoying being a moderator and seeing the cases the plaintiffs are making up. But what it has showed me is that every single person has a different take on things.
Yes.
Sometimes it's hard to convince people to change their mind.
Idea about exposing how different a simple proposition can be in different people's minds. I mean, I like that. That's interesting to me.
So let's start off with, when it comes to Truthcourt. I came to Truthcourt from a online website and one of the things that was advertising was Truthcourt. Sit on a jury and get $20. And I said, oh, what the heck? I'll try that out. And that was, over a year ago. And so I was a juror a number of times and said, this is neat. Then I was a plaintiff a couple of times and said, this is neat. And then I got the moderator tap, and here we are.
The question I'd like to ask you, though, is did it catch your eye because of your own personal views of truth and lie and your sense of morality or ethics or things like that? Was it something in you that appealed? Or rather...
Initially, no.
All right.
Initially, no. When I first came on board, I said, okay, this is cool. This is entertaining. Let me play with this. This seems fun. So one of the things you do as a lawyer is every year you have to come up with so many hours of continuing legal education.
Right.
And it's supposed to cover a variety of topics, from ethics to substantive stuff about your field of practice, all that kind of stuff. Well, this format, not necessarily seeking truth as such, but this format would be incredibly effective for online continuing legal education.
Yeah.
We truth is tough. Truth is, and we're coming back to AI here. Truth is very difficult.
Cases that have really worked well is that you really see that individuals perceive precisely the same statement in different ways.
Yes.
So I mean, I'm agreeing with you. If you want truth, You know, you're not going to just find, it's not this glittering jewel just that you can pick up and just say, hey, hold it is.
Right. So what attracted you to Truthcourt in the first place? What piqued your interest?
A couple of articles written by Robert, articles on media.
And
so I thought, well, I've always enjoyed in-depth discussions. It's quite difficult to have in-depth discussions.
Yeah.
People either don't like the topic, you know, they'll pretend they're interested when actually they're bored to tears, or they'll jump to some very divisive position just for the sake of argument, or, you know, it's very difficult to have dialogue, respectful, heart-to-heart dialogue nowadays. But I think that Truthcourt forces everybody involved to reflect on why they believe what they believe, why they think they know what they know. And I think this type of reflection is rare, especially rare in a group setting. So I find it very enjoyable.
Yeah.
Very.
I mean, do you kind of look at the media differently now that you've been in this, swept up in the Truthcourt sort of, the Truthcourt world? Does the media have a different significance now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And the role of the media, the way it handles biases, the growing influence of individual channels in the media, really, I had already come around to the perspective that traditional brand names are a dying breed. I think that exposing people to a process that allows them, like I said earlier, to reflect on why it is they believe what they believe, how it is that they think they know what they know, that I think this is very important, because I think having experienced Truthcourt, a person is less likely to be just swept away by an individual's argument or charisma or whatever, and to, just withhold judgment a bit, to be more humble, to say, well, this may not be the whole truth.
It's certainly something that I've appreciated very much now, is that, I'm a scientist by training, so obviously I tend to take, statements tend to be true or false, or real, not real, that kind of thing. And of course, I've really learned to appreciate through Truthcourt that any given statement has all sorts of shades of meaning for all the individuals, and it's something that I've been made very consciously aware of now.
That really need to pierce the veil and find a way to get people to focus on their conventional view in a way that will uncover some perspectives that they have not been able to imagine, or not been able to uncover any other way. Saying, okay, they've come here, they're doing their best to get to the truth and to be open to different points of view. And I think this group confidence, everybody's doing their best. I think that.
So do you talk to others about Truthcourt? You try to bring other people into the scheme?
And the another brother's response was, he's kind of a misanthropic type of being. His response was more like, I don't really like people that much to go through the trouble.
Oh my God, yeah.
No, it's like, no, I generally hate people. I would never do anything like that. Reminds me, the Truth Court sessions remind me of, for many years, I lived in a city that had quite a large membership in a particular Buddhist organization. That's an international Buddhist organization that I've been a member of since my teens. And the typical activity of the organization is a neighborhood discussion meeting.
Right.
And so it'd typically be 8 to 15 people, and there'd be a topic, and it'd be, there'd be the ritual, the Buddhist ritual at the beginning of the meeting, but then there'd be a discussion meeting. And I often thought, why are these discussion meetings so particularly enjoyable? I used to ponder in my over the years, and I came to the conclusion that that there was a consensus in the group that everybody was doing their best. Oh yeah, this guy he's doing his best. He's making efforts in his Buddhist practice. So I can trust him to be doing his best. This type of attitude across the membership of the group.
Yeah.
And I have a sense of this in Truth Court. I think the structure of Truth Court makes everybody kind of pull back, be a little bit more humble, and extend a little bit more courtesy and trust towards the others.
Anyway, you hush. They so he sent me another invite, and I have a fixed income, so I was like, heck yeah. So I attended, and I was pretty intrigued, I think. But that's how I came to be a part of Truth Court, and he was just talking about all this stuff, and me, I have a lot of different skills. I had to study a lot of different areas to be able to tell what's the truth and what's the lie, plus my own life that I've had to experience different things. So yeah, old days where we used to hold our breath and pray we got a spot as a juror, and then if we didn't, we was just like emailing the fire out of him, like, we didn't get an email, can we still come, because we want to be a part of it.
Yeah, I mean, do you talk to people about Truth Court a lot?
Yes, I do. Yeah. I do.
What kind of reaction do you get from people?
What is that? What do you mean trial? You go to trial? And I was like, well, it's not a trial like you would go into a regular court setting. And I've actually
Welcome to Truth Court. I'm going to show you now some clips out of a real life trial. The plaintiff has chosen their theme, their idea, their truth or lie that they want to examine. 8 jurors have been selected at random who've had a chance to look at the idea and given their verdicts, the 8 questions that every juror has to answer. And when the trial begins, the plaintiff goes through their accusation, introduces a theme, explains their own verdicts, and then we go through each juror in turn, and juror has a chance to explain their verdicts. And the structured discussion is formed around these 8 questions that every juror has to answer.
Reading the farewell address. So the farewell address has never been read in the Senate since like 1982.
I think they should go back to doing that, because I mean it's history. It's
well, it's more than just history. It's actually George Washington's advice. So he's telling you, minute 1 in the farewell address, I have to tell you something, and this is the one thing I have to tell you. And what he says is that people are going to lie to you. And so here he is saying people are going to lie to you. For many quarters, many artifices will be employed to weaken your minds, covertly lie, and insidiously lie, directed. He's telling you, in short, you're going to be lied to. The markup is said that George Washington warned us to never vote for a divisive liar. Okay. And since I discovered this back in 2019 or 2018, that this was his farewell address, I've gone on X and places like that and said, never vote for a divisive liar. And almost inevitably I get attacked. And the attack is always literally almost always is the same. And that's that all politicians lie all the time. And, you can vote for nobody but that's not what George Washington said. He said divisive liar. And George Washington was very clear. He said lies that tear one group of people against another.
Funnily enough, I'm trying to file a case about do we need the concept of truth anymore? Does it have any cognitive meaning?
So I think that it does, but you're talking to somebody who's believes in Descartes, where Descartes asked that same question in his method, and he said, "Yes, there is such a thing as truth." Okay, right. And he says the truth is what you can observe yourself, and other people observe it too. Yeah. So if I observe something and you observe the same thing, and we both agree we saw the same thing, or came to the logic was good, then that is the truth. That is truth. But I think what's going to happen, just quite frankly, is the news media, which is the very thing, Andrew, you were talking about, how the journalists are not driven by morality or.
Not all journalists like that now.
Yeah, there are a few that are okay.
Yeah.
But there's just too many that think, are both sides. They're always looking for the alternate view, which somebody is always willing to give them.
Yeah.
No matter whether they should be looking for the alternate view or not. It's just like.
Yeah, there's always an alternative.
There's always an alternative.
Oh.
Is there one here?
I don't see anything. You got 9 people in here right now.
Yeah, juror 2.
I'm present.
So what do you think?
Yes, overall, I don't think there's much that I can say. I definitely agree with everything most that was said, and that statement of warning us never to vote for a divisive liar. I think that doesn't only apply to America, but a lot of countries across the world. And if we've heeded that warning, I think the world in general would be in a better place.
Yeah, and the interesting thing is that what's interesting is that he so perfectly characterized divisive lying and how effective it is in getting elected.
Okay. Up in contact with nature, in a living tradition that is that of your culture. If you most probably go to a church where various things are imaged in ritual, in metaphorical language, in music, in pictures, this conveys things to you in a subtle way which you know in your heart to be true. So when you start to have a kind of legalistic argument about the nature of things, you're also very well embedded in an intuitive understanding of what's going on. But I think in the modern world, we've lost that embedding in any intuitive thing that would allow us to sense meaning. And so we argue about the nature of things. And if you do, you must be not contradicting yourself. Nowadays, the worst thing you can do is to appear to contradict yourself. But actually, since truth is complex, many-faceted, and there are different points of view, each of which may have something to be said for them, there's no place in this culture for that much more wise, deep, and reasonable way of talking, in which, yes, on the one hand, there's something in that, but what about this? And we've just lost that.